Okay. Yeah. Oh. 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 So I have a bit of a cold, so I'm not terribly functional. But, oh. I want to talk briefly about socialism, of all things, and specifically one aspect of socialism, the labor union. Labor unions protect workers. A labor union means that the workers pull together to ensure that everybody is treated fairly. And this, of course, is being undermined quite aggressively by the American introduction of so-called right to work laws that basically pit workers against each other as they try to underbid one another to hold on to their jobs. There's also the matter of at-will employment, where workers basically have a cell phone that they are expected to pay off that's given to them or sold to them by the company that they're working for. And for the first little while, their shifts are all to pay off the phone. But more importantly, their shifts are on call. They don't have a schedule. They are literally waiting, staring into that phone that they were provided by their employer, waiting to be called in, waiting to be told, you've got 15 minutes, you've got 20 minutes. Sometimes if they're lucky, they're given a full half hour to make it into work. Yeah. And that, although more common in red-lined areas in America, has begun to move out of the red-lined neighborhoods and affect white people adversely as well. And finally, of course, there's the one thing that labor unions protect against that family values politicians just don't want to talk about. And that is the sexual exploitation of the families of workers. Because, let's face it, without labor unions, we go back to the good old days when an employer could tell an employee, you got a mighty purty wife there, Jim Bob. Why don't you bring her into my office tomorrow in her purtiest dress, and I can show her my etchings. Now, I know you'll oblige because you don't want to lose your job now, do you, Billy Bob? You just bring your purty wife tomorrow. Toodaloo. And that is exactly what unrestricted capitalism is going to take us back to without labor unions, which is to say, without socialism. Honestly, while I'm sure that many American Republicans and Canadian conservatives would love to bring that in, specifically for that reason, it is something that I think workers should be concerned about. Because let's face it, without labor unions, there's no protection for workers. And if there's no protection for workers, pretty soon your boss or your supervisor is going to come over, put his hand on your shoulder and say, that's a mighty purty wife you got there, Jim Bob. Yeah. Yeah. And that is what socialism is protecting you against. Something to think about.